Murder on the Orient Express is a 2017 murder mystery film based off the famous Agatha Christie book of the same name. It is directed by Kenneth Branagh and it appears to have been successful enough that at the time of the making of this review, Branagh has already finished the sequel, Death on the Nile, which hasn't been released because of COVID. The movie stars Branagh himself in the lead role as famed detective Hercule Poirot, who must solve the puzzling murder case that occurs on the train that he is on. The movie has a stunning cast, with the likes of Johnny Depp, Penélope Cruz, Michelle Pfeiffer, Judi Dench, Olivia Colman, Willem Dafoe, and that girl from the new Star Wars films. I've seen the older Murder on the Orient Express, the one that came out in 1974 and was directed by Sidney Lumet. That also had a stunning cast, with the likes of Sean Connery, Lauren Bacall, Ingrid Bergman, and Anthony Perkins. I remember thinking it was alright. I wasn't too impressed though. I was young and hadn't seen enough movies to appreciate the cast, but also I just was a bit about the big reveal at the end. Spoiler alert, but in Murder on the Orient Express, Poirot has a long roster of suspects, each who has a potential motive and seems to be connected with the murder. You sit there trying to figure it out, wondering just what is going to tip the mystery in the direction of a certain suspect. But then it turns out, oh, they all did it. All of the suspects got together and conspired to murder a man who was viciously evil and had made many enemies for himself. I mean, yeah, it was different, but at the time I just thought it took away from the sense of mystery and suspicion to have everyone do the murder. But I've grown to appreciate the story. In this new adaptation, Branagh himself plays Poirot, and he plays him with a heavy accent and grotesquely colossal moustache, which takes a great deal of strength not to keep ogling at. He was okay as Poirot, I guess. I do remember thinking initially it was such a stupid casting choice, but it probably helps that I saw the film years after it came out, and I had already seen clips and stuff, so my brain had time to process him as Poirot. I grew up on David Suchet as Poirot in the TV show. He is the quintessential Poirot, and I just can't see anyone else as him. So it took me a great deal of effort to get used to Branagh. Branagh plays up the wittiness and irritable nature of Poirot, using it to cultivate humorous scenes in which Poirot often snaps off some zingers of one-liners. This is a movie made for modern-day audiences. It is a popcorn flick. It is made for mainstream audiences who want a mildly engaging mystery drama on a Saturday afternoon instead of the usual superhero crap. That is my review, summarized into a few words. This can work different ways for different people. Casual film fans, I imagine, would love it. Hardcore Agatha Christie purists probably hate it. I thought it was alright. Nothing special, a decent popcorn flick. The insane cast don't really show off too much of their acting skills. It's more of one of those films where you go, oh look, there's Johnny Depp. Oh look, there's Penelope Cruz. Instead of, hey, Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz were sure great in this flick, weren't they? Nobody really leaves much of an impression. Maybe Pfeiffer. The big names are the main reasons to see it if you already know how the story goes, and even then they don't do much, and the people you were looking forward to most weren't in the film that much anyway. Maybe it would have benefited the film to have less main suspects, narrow it down to 3 or 4 people maybe. Laid-back casual audiences will probably love the film. I know my wife, for example, loved it. Meanwhile, analytical and anal people such as myself might find the endeavour slightly more frustrating. Like, for example, there was a scene where Johnny Depp and Kenneth Branagh talk, and whilst 90% of people would be focused on the duo's conversation, I was staring at the background, cringing at the lack of quality of the green screen scenery behind the actors. That was definitely one of the worst things about the film, the exterior CGI shots of the train choo-chooing along the snowy mountains. It didn't look good at all, which is strange because earlier shots of the train steaming through crowded cities looked alright, and you'd think that would be harder to render. And we spent a surprising amount of time out of the train, in front of it, underneath it, and at one point on top of it. To add strength to my claim that this is simply a popcorn flick, take it or leave it, Branagh, as if not trusting his audience to sit through a flick where the only thing people do is talk, injects a few disappointing action scenes into the film. One of the things that this film establishes is that this is a very different experience for Poirot. He's caught out in this one. He's faced with something he's never had to deal with before. It's on a different scale. There's even a line taken from the very last Agatha Christie Poirot mystery. Something like, I have always been sure, but today I do not know. The problem is that we can never establish just how much of an experience this is for Poirot because we've just met him. You can't use previous renditions of the character to build this one, of course. That's cheating. But from the off, this film gives us a murder mystery where Poirot has to break his rules and face his own code of ethics. But where is the power in that when this is the very first Poirot mystery we've experienced? It would have been better for the filmmakers, if they wanted to make a series out of it, to have started off with a different mystery, maybe Death on the Nile, which is next, and then another, and saved Murder on the Orient Express till last to make the ending more impactful. The film opens in Palestine with an imam, a priest, and a rabbi accused of a crime. And I was thinking to myself, it's not going to be any of them, because it would cause an uproar, or at the very least, some angry Twitter nerds would be typing furiously. And it turns out the crime was committed by some security guard or something, so the film plays it safe in order not to be controversial. And this opening pretty much summarizes the film itself. Safe, mild, middle of the park. I was never bored by the film. If I was, I would have torn it apart in this review, as that is the biggest crime a film can commit, I feel. I just thought it was mediocre. It wasn't very engaging, but slightly entertaining. They stuck, really, with the remake. We already know the story, so the entire climax of the film isn't a surprise. They could have changed it, but then they'd alienate people. The only real answer here is, aside from obviously don't make it, is by pushing the film towards modern-day mainstream audiences who haven't seen the first one or know the story. And that's pretty much what they did. I give the film a 6 out of 10.